I guess it was a real breakaway from the boats that Ray and I have previously owned. We previously had production boats like Benetto's, and they're really great for round the islands, weekend sailing, and that sort of thing. If you want to be a little more adventurous, which is what we felt we wanted to do, then you probably need something a little more substantial. And so I did some research with the help of a friend of mine, learned a lot of stuff I didn't know about naval architecture, which is all these various ratios that naval architects use to determine a boat's stability, its performance, its likelihood to capsize, etc., etc. So there's a whole bunch of numbers that they calculate, and I guess there's a lot of well, I guess one end of the scale you may have a very, very safe boat, but it may be very stiff and very tiring to sail, and on the other extreme you may have a very comfortable boat, but with a high probability of capsize and so forth. So I guess there's a trade-off, and it's always, you never get the perfect boat that you're looking for. There's always a bit of a compromise.
Everything's a compromise with
everything's
boats.
A compromise. So initially, what really got me interested in the Vagabond series was I was actually looking at the West Sail series of boats because I was familiar with them, and I knew that they have a really good reputation as good ocean crossing cruising vessels.
The West Sailboats.
The West Sails, correct. And that's when I first encountered the name Bill Creelock, because as you know, Bill Creelock was he was one of the designers for West Sail, and I'm not sure if he was in the 32 or the 42, I forget. But anyway, that's when I first came across his name, and then I just Googled on his name and I came up with the Vagabond design, and he in fact designed the Vagabond 52, which is out of the question. It's a ship.
Too big.
Yeah, it's just far too big. For Ray and I would never ever manage it, and it was just far, far too big. And they very rarely come on the market anyway. And we looked at the next one down, which is the 47 that was designed by William Garden, and it has a very good reputation. And then we actually encountered one earlier this year in the sense that we came over to have a look, and again, it was just too big for us.
47 foot.
Was just too big. I mean, that's 47 foot on deck with the bowsprit and whatever. You're up close on 55, 56 foot all up, and it's a lot of boat. It has a full keel, so it tracks very well through the ocean. Really not maneuverable around slips and so forth. It's very, very difficult. So again, we decided it was just too much boat for Ray and I, and we came across the 42. So and the first one we saw was just magnificent. She wasn't for sale. We were just shown this one to get an example of what they looked like, and she was so pretty and just really done up so beautifully. We just fell in love. So we went then hunting for a Vagabond 42.
I see.
And we found about 5 for sale at the time. 3 were real project boats, and that was clearly not going to be the buy for us. And one was here in Miami, sorry, in Fort Lauderdale, in fact, and the other was up in Annapolis. So we first looked at the one in Fort Lauderdale. Potentially was a good buy because she already had the in-boom towing.
Wow.
But there was a few other problems with the boat, and nothing insurmountable, but would take money to fix, and we couldn't come to an agreement with the owner, so we moved on to Annapolis, and this boat was in very much nicer condition.
You found this boat in Annapolis?
Yes.
What year is the boat?
She's a 1983.
Right, and she's done a fair amount of cruising already, hasn't she?
She's been to the Caribbean a number of times.
Between the States and the Caribbean?
Yes, correct, yes. And so she's had some extensive sailing experience of her own, and certainly by all accounts has held up very well and performed very well. So I have every faith in the design. I think it's a very good design, and we just have a few problems to iron out, and then she'll be truly seaworthy.